Que vuelta everybody, my name is Hugo Torres. Get into a little intro. So, yeah, I'm Hugo. I work at Ultimate Software, live down in Miami. I like to put memes on my slides, and today we're going to be talking about a thing called env control that we wrote. So basically what that is a program that lets you spin up like repeatable CI environments on your local machine, bundles tools together, so you don't have to worry about setting stuff up like that. If you want, I had code. Like I gave this talk at a meetup, I had code with it, but I don't know if we're gonna have time. So if you are on your laptop or whatever, you wanna look at it, like you can go look at it while we're talking. Yeah, moving on, like people have asked me like, why not just use a Docker file? And the things that we were trying to solve is like, setting up a workstation is really hard. Like setting up like when you're onboarding somebody and you have a lot of disparate tools, it can be kind of complicated to set them up and get them ramped up. And for some projects that we have, it would take like a new dev like 2 days just to get ramped up with all the different tools and like things colliding on their system. And like different repos clobber each other, that's another thing. So like we had some Ruby repos and like sometimes they would step on each other in these weird ways. Sometimes we have like internal search stuff too that we needed to do. It was getting complicated. And so originally to solve this problem, we used a Docker file and shell scripts and we just scattered them all over all our repos. But then what ended up happening with that was that you made a change to one of like the shell scripts and you had now to somehow propagate that bug fix across all of them. And it was kind of annoying. And another aspect of this is like our CI all runs in containers on GitLab CI. So we wanted a way to easily like be able to just spin up the same thing that we were running in a CI, like if a job failed, I just type a couple commands and I just spin it up and I can play with the code as it is in the CI. So down to the basics, this is really about talking to the Docker socket, right? So Docker exposes an API via its Unix socket. It's a REST API. That's what the Docker CLI uses. Like the Docker CLI is just like sort of a dumb wrapper around it. That's basically all it does is just translate stuff to it. And that means that pretty much anybody can. It's a socket that runs on your local machine. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel either because the Docker CLI has a client package that is actually very good that you can use to do stuff like this. So getting in, like this is going to be mostly about like tips and tricks and hopefully if I have time after I can show you some code. But for now, just for images, some things you're going to want to keep in mind. Like for those of you who don't know an image, a Docker image is just layers of tarballs that are put like in a JSON format. There's like an image specification. You have to Google it. I forget like exactly how to find it, but it's there. And when you want to build this, what is required is a build context. So like it needs a Docker file. The build context is just a tar of a Docker file and then like all the files that are basically around it, like in the root of where you are. And that way you can add things. Like if you do an add, that's how it knows where to find the file that you want to add. And if you don't, like for our use case, we didn't need a Docker file. So I spent some time like trying to figure out why my thing wouldn't work and it wasn't really clear. And it was because I ended up realizing like I need a Docker file. So I ended up putting a little template inside the source code, which is kind of ugly. But that's pretty much how we had to do it. Moving on to containers. So for containers, they're actually really simple to set up. You just basically have to configure your container itself. You have to configure parameters about like the host that it's running on so it knows how to interact with the host. And you have some configuration for like the network device. And if you're on a Mac, this is gonna, like the network configuration is like pretty boring because you can't really do anything fancy with it. I think it only supports, Docker for Mac supports one type of configuration and you can't really change it and it's like, it doesn't work with bridge mode or anything. Or host networking, sorry. So, yeah, the subprocesses will run without output by default. You need to attach to the container to see this, and this is where you will get into all this cool stuff about TTYs and like setting the terminal to raw mode and like how do you translate new lines and all this other really fancy stuff. It's really difficult to get working, or it was because I didn't know any of it, but it was a good learning opportunity, I think. So yeah, just get ready for that. You're gonna learn a lot about TTYs if you want to do this. And yeah, that's the end of that. So yeah, I don't really have anything else. So yeah, I gotta go catch a plane. See you.